Hey, this is the Reverend Russell with my special guest here today, Tim Snyder. Tim, you are what? What is your context? What are you all about? I bet some people know you.
I go to House of Mercy.
That's
one context. And I'm also doing some PhD work at Boston University.
Oh, yeah,
in
great.
Practical theology and church.
But you've been involved in the whole emergent village thing.
Yeah.
Aren't you still involved there?
Yeah, for a few years.
Yeah.
I, as a layperson, led a small community in Austin, Texas called the Netzer Co-op. So that was kind of our primary entrance into emergent village, into the emerging church, and that whole...
And that magazine you're involved in, what's that?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I don't have enough going on.
Yeah.
And so I just start things.
Yeah,
right. That's exactly how it works. And so Generate Magazine is a
perhaps
cool
you've seen
magazine.
it.
Perhaps you've seen a copy somewhere. Not lately, perhaps.
Yeah.
So still working on the editorial team of that magazine, doing some fun things.
Okay, so we're here, and I'm so glad that you could join us. And we, this week, are talking about Ordinary 15 B, Pentecost 7, and the text is Mark 6:14 through 29. What's going on here?
Okay, so I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
You ready? I just love this text.
Why do you love it so much?
Okay, because this text has the kind of classic Mark narrative quality, where the narrative context of Mark really matters for understanding this text. If you were just to open your Bible to this text, I think you might get confused about what this is a story about.
Yeah.
You might for a moment think that it's a story about John the Baptist.
Yes, and how he died.
So
we're like, oh, that's how he died.
That's how he died. But he was arrested earlier.
Yeah, right.
Everybody, he ends up in prison.
Yeah.
And he's going to get executed.
Well, what is it about if it's not about that?
There's a lot of things that it's about. But I would
lean
say,
forward and get in the shot a little bit better.
A little bit better? Okay.
Oh, see, that's perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes, you can actually see me. So it's actually a text about what kind of imagination does Mark's gospel have around power. At the beginning...
Tell me more.
There is this kind of interesting beginning where the central Markan theme of Jesus' identity gets played out, right? So it opens with what seems to be kind of the Jewish leaders kind of having this conversation about who Jesus really is. I mean, they've heard of him now, trying to figure out who he is. And it's almost as if Mark's storyteller, the narrator, kind of gets lost in telling who Herod thinks Jesus is. Herod, along with others, actually thinks that Jesus is a reincarnated version of John the Baptist.
Right.
Which Herod's particularly invested in because he killed him.
Right,
So there's this kind of strange moment. And it's kind of hopeful in a certain sense for Herod, because Herod kind of liked the guy.
Right.
He was protecting him in prison.
Yeah, right.
And so he said, well, I protected this guy. He thought he was a righteous man and was, at some level, kind of engaged in some conversations with him that probably meant something to him. And he gets trapped in this He has to kill him.
Yeah.
His daughter comes in during a party, and he makes this oath to her that he'll give her whatever she asks for. And then one of those classic bad parenting moments in the Bible, 12-year-old or whatever she was, runs off to her mother and says, "What do I ask for?" And so her mother, Herod's wife,
if every time I made that bad choice with my kids,
the triangulation between mom and dad and kid,
and then you end up asking for a decapitation, and it's very bad.
It's not pretty.
Okay, so tell me this: why this is kind of a long narrative for Mark?
It is.
So why is it so important for Mark to tell us the story about what Herod thought and this John the Baptist as this Jesus is the reincarnation of John the Baptist?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think in Mark, timing is everything, right? Earlier, when John the Baptist gets arrested, that signals the beginning of Jesus' ministry.
Yeah.
So the timing of when John the Baptist and Jesus meet for the first time in the narrative, anyway, at Jesus' baptism, that's an important timing moment. There's a second one. Jesus has gone into the desert, confronted Satan, won, right? He refused to be tempted by Satan. And then John gets arrested.
Yeah.
And that arrest serves as the launch pad for Jesus' ministry to begin. So those two things, those timing, function narratively together. His death serves another kind of critical
John
moment.
the Baptist. Yeah.
John the Baptist's death here has an important timing for Mark. It's a whole 5 chapters after his arrest, and so why wait to say whatever happened to that guy? And part of it is that Jesus has begun to escalate what he's up to.
Yeah.
Right? There is this kind of direction towards Rome in Mark that really matters. And along the way, this imagination of power is being formed. In this moment, I think, among other things, is about a contrast of imaginations around power. Jesus' power.
Yeah. And so
versus the power of the state.
What kind of power does Herod think that Jesus has here? Is he asking a question about power, or why is Mark bringing in this sort of governmental power figure in with a story?
I think he's
this?
bringing. There are going to be those who wonder what kind of power.
Yeah.
Are we going to overthrow the state?
Yeah.
That's a critical question that the Jews, being occupied by Roman authorities, would have been asking.
Yeah.
And so the contrast goes perhaps something like this, right? Herod, the state official power, is using that sort of classic, Max Weber talks about the legitimate use of violence as the very definition of what a state is.
Yeah, wow.
So Herod is exercising that kind of power.
Yeah.
So while the state's power rests in violence, in death, in destruction, in undoing creation, Jesus' power is going to rest in overcoming death, in healing people, in casting out demons, in recreation. So it's setting 2 very different imaginations about power.
Well, this seems like there's a lot of really great stuff to preach on with this.
It's a great text. It's a great text to preach after July in the summer. We just had 4th of July.
Yeah, nice.
Not too far away, so it would be a good opportunity to talk about what is our imagination of power, and how do we think that that might matter for understanding Jesus, for understanding Mark, for understanding ourselves.
Nothing says summer like the examination of state-sponsored violence.
That's right.
Well, this has been the Hardest Question video blog, and let us know how you're going to preach on this text. Thanks.